I was raised in upstate New York, and we used to take Sunday drives in New England. And I was always struck by the beauty of the landscape there. I'd come home and take my little box of crayons and do some coloring and maybe try to recreate what I had seen that day. I wasn't really big, I wasn't really athletic, I wasn't into all the sports and things that all the other neighborhood kids were into. So, my idea of a really great weekend would be basically staying in my room and drawing and coloring and creating things that were like sort of my own little world. And at a very young age, my mom encouraged me a lot when she would see me drawing, and she said, wow, that's really pretty, that's really beautiful, you have a talent. And then in grammar school, I remember I went to a Catholic school. One of the nuns told my mother, she said, that boy of yours has really got some talent, he could be an artist someday. I went through school early because I guess I was sort of a brainiac back then. So when it got time to graduate from high school, I didn't really have any prep or anything done to go into college. So what I did right immediately after high school was I came to California, which is where my brother lived. And then when I came back to New York at the end of that summer, I got a job in a newspaper. So I started out in the advertising department of the newspaper as a messenger. And I thought being in the advertising business might be a help because at least that was a visual arts medium. A friend of mine was in an ad agency, and he was the creative director, art director. And he called me up one day and said, let's go to lunch. I haven't seen you for a while. So he took me to lunch and we started talking, and he said, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I'd really like to stay in advertising and be a graphic artist. He said, you don't have any college, you don't have any experience, and he said, you may fall flat on your face, but I'm going to hire you as a trainee in my ad agency as my assistant, and I'll give you 3 months, and if you don't work out, I'm going to fire you. So he was pretty abrupt. And I said, well, okay, that sounded, I always love a challenge. So I worked for him for 2 years, the town near where I live, Albany, New York, which is the capital of New York State. And there was a big ad agency there. And I said, boy, it would be really cool to go work for them. And I became the head art director in this big advertising agency. Life was great. I was 21 years old, and I was in this exciting business. I wasn't really learning about fine art, but I was learning aspects of art that I would use later on in my fine art career, like photography and composition and light, and also the business side of it, meeting with the clients and client presentations. Everything I did early on in my life were all stepping stones and tools that I used later on in this career. I've been married for quite a long time. I got married at a very young age, and my wife has always supported me. And in the years when I had an advertising business and when I was a freelance artist, I was very successful both in New York and California. So when I finally decided to make a living totally as an artist, I obviously consulted with my wife, and I said, I think I can make a living at this full time. And she said, are you sure? Are you really sure? So there was some doubt, and I still had some self-doubts myself, but at some point in your life, you have to challenge yourself, or you have to say, I'm just going to go for it. And that's basically, I think, what anyone does in any sort of career endeavor. If you want to do what you really love doing and believe in yourself, that's basically what it takes. When I first started out, I would pretty much paint any kind of subject, any kind of time of day, and I was, again, experimenting. As I honed my techniques and my methods in the painting, I was also kind of developing the things that were important to me to paint, which is how an artist finds their style. I think that comes through with any artist if they're painting something that's meaningful to them, something that they really love, that they're passionate about. And as I evolved, I realized that one of my favorite subjects, which is actually what I'm working on right here, are boats and water scenes and things like that. All the men in my family, the previous generations, were all men of the sea. They were all in the Navy, or they were sailors or fishermen. So I think that that's something that I have deep down in my DNA structure, or something that's my inner voice, if you will. Over the years, I developed techniques for capturing water, movement in water, water reflections, which were the things, to me, that I found very interesting. What I try to do with my work is when I go somewhere, when I travel, or when I'm inspired by some image or some scene or some place, it's emotional to me. It means something. You know, if you're in this beautiful coastal area, there's the smell of the ocean, there's the sounds, there's all the sensory things that take place when you're there. It's not really about the technique or capturing the realism or being a perfect artist or any of those things. What it really is just being able to convey what was in my heart or my brain or my senses at that time and you know, bring that to the viewer. There's really no way to define what art is. It's whatever you want it to be. It's whatever the person perceives it to be. It's neat, it's chaotic, it's crazy, it's wild, it's colorful, it's black and white. It's anything you want it to be. For me, it's tranquility, peace, solitude, water, color, light, yeah, all those things.